Well, hello. Denise here. That was Sir Chirps. There's a saying by a philosopher, I can't think of who it was, who said, if God didn't exist, man would have to invent him. And I want to paraphrase that for the benefit of Rick Alan Ross and his little professional stalker crew over at the Institute. If cults didn't exist, Ross would have to invent them. As it stands, the Jesus Christians group doesn't exist. And they've disbanded. Since they've disbanded, the posting fury in the Rick Ross hate forum has just exploded. Not having any victims to bite and claw at, they're clawing at each other. The head stalker, Brian Birmingham, is trying very hard to maintain his cult leader grasp on the whole thing. One of the strings of complaints they bounced back and forth were that they never could find any crimes. There were suggestions of crimes, and the things that they post as potentially criminal are truly absurd. The idea that Dave McKay might have made some money from those books. What on earth do they think is criminal about any writer making any money at all from having published a book? And it doesn't matter how it's distributed. A writer can publish a book and only distribute it through college classes and force college students to pay $500 for a copy. Actually, it's not uncommon for college professors at some universities to publish a book about their interest and charge something like $75 for it, and the students have to buy it or flunk the course. That's always been a problem in the academic world, but there's nothing criminal about it. There's nothing criminal about just writing a book and putting it on Amazon. So that's one of the major crimes. The other one, of course, is the kidney donation. We've covered that in other videos. You can Google organ donation, transplant, kidney transplant, living donor. That's really what you want to Google. Google living donor and find out how many organizations and groups are out there that support organ donation. Especially considering that anyone who goes through that kind of surgery needs to be looked after the surgery for a little while. Hospitals will put you out on the street in a taxi cab with the stitches still in you. I don't say that they do that to organ donors, but we all know that hospitals don't keep people under close watch for very long. And so there's nothing wrong with any religious group making the ministry of support to living donors part of their mission in life. And it's really sad that this group disbanded, having their individual members continuously stalked. Members joining, discovering that their relatives were continuously stalked. The family of the recipient has to be protected. The hospital has to be protected. They have to be protected against these unlicensed, unprofessional, criminal, absolutely criminal level stalkers getting in there and trying to disrupt a medical procedure. And it's not over. The Jesus Christians are gone. They've disbanded. And Rick Ross Institute is still maintaining the stalker thread, still looking for information, any information. Has anybody who's old enough to be retired got a pension? Let's steal that from them. Seriously. There's nothing, there's no requirement for anyone to publicly discuss their income at any level. These people don't have to discuss, those who joined with the full support of their families, and some have, whether their families happily supported that group the same way that a Catholic family may happily support the Franciscans or the Benedictines or the Dominicans. It's not at all uncommon for a family to support the religious vocation of one of their children when they feel comfortable with what's going on. And a lot of people are very comfortable with the Jesus Christians. They can't say it publicly because they'll be attacked. They'll be attacked at their jobs. They'll be attacked at public in any way whatsoever. They'll lose work the way I just lost work. Because I was in interviewing for a job that is available to me, except that any organization that puts me on their list of art teachers has to face the same stalker crew from Rick Ross Institute going after them. And they can't have a teaching staff without disclosing the name in a brochure to the people paying for the classes. So I'm looking at my age at a loss of ever being hired anywhere. What Rick Ross is doing is ridiculous, but other people are in the same position I'm in. I cannot participate in any art activity that is going to be public, because any organization that hires me is going to be subjected to the stalker, the professional stalker crews out of Rick Ross Institute. Somebody like Brian Birmingham will see the brochure, will make sure to get around there somewhere, get the list of class participants, start telling them this must be a cult. She was once associated with the Jesus Christians. We know she was one of them because she posted in their forum. They do the same thing to the individuals who used to be Jesus Christians. Because Dave McKay spent a few months of his entire long life palling around with the children of God. And he and his wife left that group because that group began to institute a sexual practice as part of their religious thing, and everyone who knows the history of the children of God knows the story. They went from being a bunch of hippie Jesus freaks to being a sexual enticement kind of thing. And Dave McKay was one of the decent people who did not go along with that. And he has faced slanderous libel from Rick Allen Ross, Brian Birmingham, Anita Walker, Malcolm West, Susan Smith Summers, and the rest, over and over again. It's horrible to think that somebody's entire life would be wrecked this way. They're not attacking the children of God. They're attacking the people who left the children of God after a short bit of contact. But this is the other part. They didn't drop off the earth. Everybody disbanded. There is no such group. But do the individuals who belong to it cease to be Christians? Do individuals who know each other cease to stay in contact? Is it now going to be treated like a crime if two people known to ever have been a Jesus Christian are recognized anywhere speaking to each other, having lunch together? Maybe some of them decided to join mainstream churches. Maybe they talked it over during the course of disbanding. And I'm saying maybe because I'm not going to discuss anything with the public, because the public includes Rick Ross, Brian Birmingham, Susan Smith Summers, and the rest of the criminal extortion ring. But can you imagine what it must be like for some of these people? not to be able to go and sit in the pew at a congregational church or a Catholic church or an Episcopalian church unless they somehow hide their identity so that they won't be stalked. I'm closing down my discussion of what these stalkers have been doing to the people who were in this group of Jesus Christians. But I'm not closing down my discussion of Rick Ross and what he's doing to some other groups. I'm not closing it down until Rick Ross Institute is closed down. That's a criminal extortion ring using blackmail, intimidation, libel, and slander against people who have done nothing wrong. And he's in the course of this, when you read his threads, the emotional accusations of things like earning money from books. In the course of half a dozen of those postings, you actually can begin to feel like there's something terribly wrong with that. This is the erosion and destruction of basic human freedoms. Gathering together to discuss any kind of religious interest. They speak about that as if it's an evil thing to do. Relationships between people. The loving relationship of Cherry McKay for her husband, obscenely described as consort. And Susan Smith Summers has referred to Kevin McKay's mother as consort. She is one of the people among the others who have wished for the destruction of that marriage. Kevin McKay is part of that group that wants to destroy his parents' relationship. A lifetime marriage, a faithful marriage of two decent Christians. It's almost bringing tears to my eyes to think of this, that a son would do this to his parents. I don't care how cruel of parents they were, if they were. David McKay won't deny that he has a talent for sarcasm, and I'm sure he has cut his son to the bone with his sarcasm more than once. Everybody who's ever had a family member with a sharp tongue knows that it hurts. And all I have to say to Kevin McKay is grow the hell up. You are made of your father's flesh and blood. And you are so many more times hateful and evil than your father ever dreamed of being. To pal around with people who call your mother a consort. To be palling around with people who are rejoicing in the destruction of your family. Your friends have attacked my family and you've supported them. And I've watched you attack your father and your mother. The attack on your mother especially. By palling around with somebody who calls your mother consort. Yes, this is an angry, emotional video and y'all can dance all over it. But listen to the words. Rick Ross is running a criminal extortion ring. He gets fees when his little pit bull dogs succeed in driving a family to use their services. He gets $5,000 for each day that he spends. And he makes sure the criminal activities are carried out by people like Susan Smith Summers, who did commit crimes with what she's been doing to me in those postings in your website there, Kevin. Those are criminal statements made in there. And she is going to eventually face that. Brian Birmingham is going to be facing criminal charges over stalking. There's a lot of stuff those people are facing. And you go ahead and keep calling me names. But I am sitting here only as an example and representative of at least 24 people that have suffered this from that extortion ring. And it's an international extortion ring.